I will call the meeting to order. Be safe. The board wants to provide ample opportunities for public comment on matters that come before us. Your input is important. If you wish to address an item already on the agenda, we ask that you do so when that item comes up for discussion. If you have a comment on a matter not on the agenda, this is the time during our meeting for such comments. The board would like to remind everyone in attendance that to avoid violations of individual rights and privacy, a member of the public wishing to address the board during this time will not be allowed to make comments about any student, staff member, or member of the general public. Does anyone wish to speak at this time?
I do. I'm Jamie Lawson. I have prepared a letter to that. I wrote this letter out of deep concern and disappointment as a teacher and a staff member at Townsend Schools for the last decade, and as an educator 17 years. I'd like to begin by stating that I will be addressing the board collectively out of the respect for the governance structure in place. While this formality may introduce certain constraints in communication, I fully recognize the importance of adhering to the established protocols and ensuring a transparent and respectful engagement with the board. With that being said, it is concerning to observe the board's time and energy being directed toward matters that are misaligned with the core mission of our school community, rather than focusing on collective needs and priorities of this institution. This board is entrusted with a great responsibility to work collaboratively to ensure the success, safety, and growth of our schools. Unfortunately, the board's recent actions have not contributed to fostering unity or trust within our community, but have instead created an atmosphere of division and distraction from our shared goals. These actions are not only unbecoming of an elected official, but they are in direct violation of the spirit and intention behind Policy 4000 of the Board Policy Manual, which clearly outlines the expectation to enhance communications, understanding, and trust, and to strengthen and improve relations among staff, trustees, citizens, parents, and students. It's incredibly disappointing to see this position of trust being used not to build up the district, but to sow division and mistrust. Undermining our administration with ongoing attempts to discredit their work is destructive and completely out of line with the responsibilities of the board. I want to be completely clear. Putting personal interest ahead of the well-being of our school community is not just a lapse in judgment. It is a disservice to every student, every staff member, every parent, and every fellow trustee who is here to serve in good faith. I'm asking the board to reflect on their actions, realign with the duties that they were elected to uphold, and put the needs of the district as the priority. Our students deserve better, our teachers and administrators deserve better, and this board as a collective body deserves better. Thank you.
Any additional public comment? Any other correspondence? Mr. Bell, do you have any?
No.
All right, moving on, items of discussion. Student representative.
I don't have too much to report on, but I just wanted to share the middle school student council recently just did a food drive, and it was very successful, so I wanted to share the numbers. In total, we raised a total of 176 pounds of food, estimated to be worth $880. We asked the community for a week to put out bins at 3 local businesses so the community could contribute as well. So students brought 138.5 pounds to our spring dance, and the community contributed 37.5 pounds of food. So that was really exciting to see, and it's really great to be able to help the community. That's all I have to report on. Any questions? Thank you.
Thanks.
The high school representative had to, because of the.
She came in here.
Yeah, she
Okay.
did, but she has to be somewhere at a certain time, and I told her that we have 2 board meetings, one that was probably the last one, she was, oh shoot, so, she had to leave, but basically, a lot of, things will be in my principal's report that she was going to report on some activities and things like that, and then, the one thing she did want me to bring to you guys was that during the spring play and musical. She and I were having a discussion because we're taking pictures about how old the curtains are and how, you know, some of the different things that we need to improve and update. And so she came to me today and said, you know, I would like to at least express to them the idea, at least put it on the radar of that, you know, when a lot of the drama and play kids are saying that when they're performing, it's so dark in the back of the stage when the curtains are closed, they can't see where they're going, they're tripping over everything. So maybe we need to work on some backlighting there for them, and then look at options of grants or things that we could do to try to spruce up the look of our stage. Those curtains really are very, very old. They're looking pretty rough. We've tried to clean them a couple of times, and so I think she's looking at maybe trying to follow up on some of those things and see how we can improve kind of the center of our stage with that. So she wanted me to relay that to you guys.
All right, transportation bus maintenance reports. Mr. Schindel?
Everything with buses is going fine right now, so.
Very good.
Good news.
Good, all right. Start with the principal's report. Mr. Cook.
Okay, enrollment's gone down slightly, but the attendance continues to improve. I believe the biggest factor though is the illnesses are kind of clearing out, I hope. Spring concert was just held. The kids worked really hard to put on a good show. There were some minor sound problems, but the kids were very pleased with their efforts. The last session of the mass test cycle is ongoing at this time. The test data will be used to determine strengths and weaknesses of the school structure and help us address the changes needed to keep children learning at high levels. I want to again give a shout out to Mrs. Larson. Plans for Ag Day are revving up. Even though I'm still petrified of all those kids being out there, I'm ready to go eat some good food.
We got you, Esther. That's okay.
And then the Legion, I want to thank the Legion and do a shout out to the Legion. They put on an excellent teacher appreciation meal. I'll tell you what, I'm going to go corner Dave Horner and find out how that tomato, how we made that tomato basil soup. That was the best soup in the world.
All right, any questions for Mr. Cook?
Doing okay on hiring as far as.
Yes, we have 2 positions filled. And right now we still have the opening in special ed.
Thank you. Mr. Rock for middle school.
The Montana history Raidersburg trip was a big success. I talked about that a little bit last week. Mr. Patrick and Mr. Lawson take the Montana history 7th graders out there, and it's a great opportunity for them to learn some local history. Really encourage you guys to be a part of that if you ever get the opportunity. They've been able to do it every spring. And we just thank all the people in our community that help us incorporate them into our students' education. And it's good to see them getting some people outside the school involved. We will have a Holocaust Remembrance Night this month. I clearly don't have the date in my phone. I thought I put it in, but I'll get that out to everybody. And what that is a culmination of the 8th graders' language arts work. They do a lot of curricular assignments where they do projects, read books associated with it, learn the history of it, and then all their projects and everything they learned is on display in here. In the evening, it's open to the public. We encourage parents, public to come, and it's really a powerful night and a really important project that they do, and a very eye-opening experience for our students. And would thank our 8th grade language arts teachers for the work that they put into that. It's not an easy subject to teach, and they do a great job with it. Our schedule for next year is something we will start working on as soon as we get all the dominoes to fall from some of the positions that we have to hire. We are really hoping to not have a lot of change in our actual schedule and still offer the same things that we do, with maybe some minor tweaks. A lot of it depends on every time there's an opening or a position is filled, then it kind of creates a domino effect, and we're not exactly sure who will be teaching what, but at this point, we anticipate being able to keep it very similar. And of course, we have to be able to mesh with the high school because we're on the same bell schedule and have a lot of shared staff. And so that's really takes a lot of coordination between the two buildings and all the staff members. The middle school is going to finish, kind of have a fit day before the 8th graders are gone. And that's when we go out with all our advisories and just have some class competitions, do some fun things, learn some teamwork. And we're hoping to do that on the 30th, weather permitting. Requisitions are something that all the principals are working on, and I'll talk about that a little bit in the superintendent's report. But I know I can say the middle school staff, I'm very grateful. They were very reasonable and what they've asked for. They're tired of hearing that there's just nobody, so they don't even try.
They're listening.
Yes, very impressive. 8th grade awards night will be June 3rd at 7 p.m. And traditionally we have 1 or 2 school board members come and join us, hand out diplomas to the students. It's a short ceremony. It lasts about 45. We've got it down pretty good. It's about 45 minutes. And if there's any, don't all rush at once to do this, but it would be, and it is cool if you have a kid doing it. So is that something you'd be? Yeah. So, okay, I'll mark you down. And then no getting out of it now. It's in my book. And so that's great. And just one will work, but if somebody else would like to do it, we'd certainly welcome that.
I'll do my best.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you very much. Yes, that's a Tuesday. Yep, the Tuesday after the high school graduation. And then everything else is just rolling along. As Mr. Cook said, the bad part of spring is you start getting some families that start traveling a little bit, I think. And so your absences still remain a little bit high, but we've been, knock on wood, we're very grateful to get through some of the illness we had kind of late in the winter. And it's just so busy right now that we have, as Sherry will attest to, we have groups gone every day for some kind of activity. Really busy time in the middle school, but things are going smoothly, and we're just trying to keep the kids on track until the very end. The final day for 8th graders they'll be out of school at noon on that June 3rd. And then they'll come back for their awards ceremony that night. So that's it.
Okay, any questions?
Are you able to use the new streaming platform to get some of the Holocaust stories out we did on the radio, or have you not explored that yet?
Have not explored that. That's a good, I can check into that, because in the last couple of years, we started doing some things on the radio and having some little spots. So that's, we'll look into that. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's certainly a thing we can do. Thank you for that suggestion. No, that's a good suggestion, because the kids work hard and like to, and if nothing else, it's a good chance for them to get on there and just promote it, because we really would like to get the public involved. Years ago, we used to be able to bring in, we had some connections that could help us bring in a Holocaust survivor and speak to the community. And unfortunately, there's not, it's getting harder and harder to find those. And we've just been really lucky. And so it's good. And we want to do what we can to kind of get those lessons out there. So we'll try that. So good suggestion. Thank you.
All right, so just want to throw out some congratulations. We have State Music Festival students do quite well in Great Falls. We had 2 students receive superior ratings for their playing for their piano performances. That would be Kyla Meisner and Simon Sanchez. They did an outstanding job. And then we also had a couple of excellent ratings for Jazz Martin and Kyla on trumpet and saxophone as well. So they represented us well and competed well at State Music Festival. Also to our tracksters, they are entering postseason, as we'll see here. Everybody is. They had a great showing at district track last Thursday. The girls team ended up placing second overall. The boys team placed fourth, and tons of PRs and everybody moving on into divisionals. I think we had over half of the track team move on to divisionals, so 21, 22 students, I think is what the track coach said this morning. So that's excellent. That's huge. They're all headed to divisionals on Thursday in Laurel, I believe. So they're headed out of here. We want to congratulate our baseball team on their finishing their first inaugural season. I just have to say that the boys and their coaches' attitudes were just exemplary. They represented us well. It was a tough year for them. We knew it was going to be to get started. Got to start somewhere. They took it in stride and they worked really hard and just huge amounts of improvement as the year went on. So really proud of all of them, their efforts and just keeping their spirits up and their attitudes up, because it's really tough to kind of jump in the water like that. And they did good. They did very well. Really proud of them. Also, want to congratulate our golfers. They did go to divisionals last week and competed fairly well there. It's obviously very competitive. We do have one state golfer. She's there right now, and it's Jazz Reagan. So good luck to Jazz. Hopefully they're doing. I haven't heard any reports today, so I'm not sure. The sun was shining in Shelby this morning, so it didn't look too bad yet. I haven't heard about any grizzly bears or anything, so I think we're okay there for now. But that does happen up the Shelby once in a while this time of year. So hopefully she's doing well. We'll check in on her here later on and see how her day went. Also, as I kind of spoke to last meeting, it was really so great and so neat to see Maddie Schritz walk at Great Falls College on Saturday. I know Mr. Schnittke was able to get up there and be with her. She got to walk the stage and receive her certificate of general studies through our early college program. So just huge. We're very proud of her, and it's so fun to have her do that. It's kind of crazy to graduate from your college program before you graduate high school. So, but we're happy. It's all going to happen in a few weeks. So we're really proud of her. She's worked really hard. So, and kudos to Mr. Schnecken for just really throwing himself into that program and getting that stuff all lined up. It's been a lot of work, and he has just jumped right in. So it's been really good. Yes, he does. Yes, he does. It was great. I'm so glad I got to be able to be there. That was great. So the pictures were awesome. Although he said I look like a giant next to Matt. I go, Mike, you are a giant. I go, but I'm only 5 foot, so I really don't have a lot of, yeah, Maddie and I are little. You look huge to all of us. He was laughing. Yeah. And then just really quickly, we had some extra help with our concerts and things from Roger Flynn. We so appreciate him coming to just try to troubleshoot some things so we can make sure our concerts and graduation will go well, and then take a deeper dive and a deeper look into what we really need to do to make our sound systems better for all of these events and things that we needed to perform a lot better. A lot of outdated equipment. Nancy Marks also did come at a later date, and Roger Flynn with, I think it's Sunshine. Do I have that right? Okay.
Yeah, Bruce Bull.
Yeah, with Bruce. They put in the original system. They came down to do a reevaluation, and if everybody knows Nancy, she will find ways to help us make that work, to update that system, and we really appreciate all of that. So they spent some good time. They've been writing up some thoughts, ideas, proposals, what we need to push for equipment. We just appreciate everybody's help trying to keep us as good a shape as we can be. Again, thank you to Townsend PTA. I kind of want to extend Mr. Cook's thank yous. Teacher Appreciation Week was awesome. It was a combined effort. I think we all felt very loved and very cared for last week. I know lots of daily things went on in the elementary and the middle school. We played Survivor in the high school. Fantastic. Lots of fun. The student council pitched in for the high school and did breakfast. Wednesday, the teachers just ate. We had breakfast in the morning in the high school for student council, and then the Lions Club also fed us an awesome lunch. So we just really appreciate everybody makes us feel so loved. Yesterday, we started this last year and we decided to do it again this year. Student council put on a club fair and an incoming freshman welcome, just to kind of set the scene for our freshmen that are coming in. And then we actually had our current freshmen go through the club fair again. Basically, Mrs. Lampman and the student council, high school student council did a great job setting up the stage gym, representatives from all activities, all of our CTEs, anything that we have a club or an organization for, and all of our athletic programs. Brought everybody to the gym. It's run by students, their peers, talk to them about just trying to get those incoming freshmen to start looking at things they might be interested in high school and get them engaged in all of the activities we have. We all know successful students, a lot of their success is contributing to all the extra things that they do extracurricularly in high school. And it definitely helps make them good, well-rounded people. So that went really well. We divided them in a couple of groups. They spent some time in here with myself and a couple of the seniors, just kind of give them the rundown of what it's going to look like coming in as a freshman, a lot of general information that we will definitely expand on as it gets a little closer. And then they went and did the fair in the gym with the other students and all of the other student reps. So kudos to Mrs. Lampman and her crew. It went very well. So I appreciate those efforts. PLC updates in the high school. We've had a couple of PLC days. We used them pretty productively. We dug into how we can better use our MAPS testing data. Have a couple of staff members on board that are going to help expand that going into next year. More productive ways. How can we make those tests be more meaningful to our students and figure, we do use them, but not well enough. We know we need to do a better job using that data. So we are pouring ourselves into that project to continue that into next year. And then obviously just trying to plan next year for updating the course description guide, the master class schedule, all of those things that are kind of in limbo right now until we get our hiring and spots filled that we need for teachers. But as always, staff does a great job. We just kind of started a conversation about some of the things we need to update with handbook and some suggestions for class scheduling and fixing that master class schedule. So as everybody said, end of the year, we're rolling into it. Graduation for the high school is on Sunday, June 1st. We're excited about that. The seniors have a lot of things going down. I've shared a lot of information with them and their parents about what their last days look like here. The 27th and 28th are kind of their last days, and how we're going to check out and know what graduation protocol is and what we're expecting for graduation. And we usually have 2 board members help with handing out things at graduation. And I was like, well, already volunteered for one. How do you feel about 2, Mr. Brakefield?
Yeah.
If you would like to help out with Maddie graduating, you're more than welcome to. And then, yep, I have Flynn and Brakefield written down question mark. So it's already in there. I did put the question mark, but now I'm already submit. So yeah, it's solid now. so yeah. We'll, it's pretty easy thing to show up for graduation. We usually have the board show up no later than 1:45, and then we'll get everybody organized and seated and help us hand out scholarships and diplomas and those kind of things. All right, that would be great. As you guys can see, the activities are there. It's crazy, as Brad already alluded to. It's nuts. We have all kinds of postings and stuff happening, and next week we'll finish up with state. For the first time in a long time, we're actually done with our activities before school gets out. Obviously, with our calendar the way it is with 4-day week, that's going to be new, and I'm kind of excited about that. We aren't going to be juggling all of that at the last days of school at the same time. So I think it might make for a nice ending to the school year without all of that going on. So that's the high school.
Can I add to my, Sherry reminded me, thank you. I do need to do a shout out to the PTA because they were there every morning with all these nice sweet treats, which I tried to hide from because I always have a tendency to wear my sweet treats. So, but anyway, thank you to the PTA.
And with that said, I just realized I skipped over. Is there a PTA rep here with the report? I'm sorry. Please forgive me.
So I'll be quick. I just wanted to, again, go over what we talked about what we did last week. holidays, snack cards. And we've also done some admin snacks on lunch. And then we also wanted to thank the treasurers as well with the mix of it. We do have new board members we elected last month. Our new president is Michelle Hildreth, Vice President Tracy Vaughn, Secretary Alyssa Martin, and Treasurer Jocelyn Reynolds. And that's all we have.
Thank you.
And I just want to say thank you to the PTA. You guys have done, not just with the treats, but I don't know if a lot of people realize how much they do behind the scenes and help. I mean, just any project that we have in school, they are, if you ask them, they're willing to help out or find a solution too. And we just appreciate the work they're putting in. So thank you very much.
Coin Wars dance off was pretty awesome. So thank you for that. Mr. Cook has moves. It was
All right, back to Mr. Rock, Superintendent report.
Okay, one of the changes in our school that people may have noticed is our school resource officer is no longer with us. And unfortunately, that is part of, the changes that they have to make as a result of their mill levy. From a school standpoint, it's disappointing because, first of all, Sheriff Rouser does an amazing job of supporting not just the school, but our students and the families in our community. And we're just very grateful for that. We've had for many years a great relationship with our sheriff's department. And, again, we're fortunate because apparently it's not that way necessarily in every community. And they're right down the street. And we take a lot of comfort in knowing that they're there to help us whenever we need it. And I know they're going to be stretched very thin. And from a school standpoint, that's unfortunate. And I'd like to thank first of all, Tony Cordova, Sergeant Cordova, for the work he did as the school resource officer. And it's not, a lot of people, I think there's sometimes some confusion, he's not out, busting people and everything, but he did so much with our kids as just somebody for them to talk to, vent to, and a safe outlet for them when there's things at home. And just he was a very good role model for them and outlet for them. And we appreciate that. But and it's not just Sergeant Cordova. It's I think knowing the people in that department, anybody they would have put in that role, I think would have done very well. He's a very special person that helped us. And just like to say thank you to the sheriff's office in general for it. We'll miss that position, and I know they tried very hard, but I certainly understand when budget things happen, things have to go, and that's just part of running an organization.
I appreciate the relationship you developed with students, and it was just great to see kind of that positive interaction and developing those really positive connections. And so we will miss their presence very much. Very much.
Sure. One of the things been working on in negotiations, kind of get this thing spurred a little bit, is the budget prep and kind of going through that initial budget and trying to figure out what it's going to look like for the next year. And it's not an easy process. There's always a lot of unknowns when you start this early. Part of that process is the requisitions that these guys have collected from all the staff. And it's not just, what they want in their rooms, but it costs a lot of money to run a school. And what we will do now is prioritize those requisitions and trying to get what we can ordered out of this year, because it's always better. The fiscal year ends on June 30th, and we want to. It's a struggle when you're always taxing your budget right off the bat with supplies, and if you can get in a little bit of a cycle where you can buy some of next year's supplies out of this year's budget, it's really helpful. But honestly, we don't have a lot left this year, but we're going to get what we can, and we'll start getting those orders done. Another thing that we're in the process of doing is filling all of our vacancies, going through that interview process, which is very time consuming when you do that, and checking references and all of that. It takes a lot of time. It's important work. Also, one of the things that we have spent January and February, we spent considerable time on our accreditation report, which is something every district has to do. It's very tedious work. It's good work. It makes us kind of look at some of the things we're doing. The state just now, 2 weeks ago, I think, released the initial scores. They give you a chance to make amendments in areas you might have been weak in. We were, with our scores, we're good. We submitted some amendments just to get a little stronger score, just because we worked so hard on it. We're like, no way are we going to settle for that. And they said you got a regular accreditation if you don't want to do anything with it. But we did submit some amendments, and curious to see what that did to bring our scores up. But we're all three schools as well as the district is in good standing. Our strategic plan, still waiting on the final version of that work, I guess, from Andy Seaver. We'll try to track that down. This summer for the superintendent and clerk will be really busy. There's a lot that goes on in the summer, but this summer, especially with a new clerk, Courtney will be gone. She'll be at a MASBO training for about a week, the first kind of after the first few days of June. And then I'll be out. I should be taking some classes. I'm going to be like Tommy Boy down there at school, taking some classes. So I'll be doing that the last 2 weeks of June, and we'll just kind of coordinate to get everything done, because the end of the fiscal year is an important time to, make sure we're getting the stuff spent that we can. And then maintenance updates, working with Mr. Riddle, as Mr. Riddle will be done June 30th also. Trying to get all of those summer projects aligned. We're still trying to hire that position. Not an easy position to fill. One of the things we are hoping to do, he's working with a company. We had talked about not doing our gym floors this summer. I think we can get by with every other year, but there is a process that they can do at about probably a quarter or a third of the cost, where they can put a coat on and get those floors looking nice. They don't take them all the way down. So if we, we had kind of talked about the possibility of doing that every other year, and then this one could get us by. He's still doing some research on that and seeing if it's really an effective solution and worth the money to do. And then again, I'd just like to, Roger Flynn just really helped us out with getting sound going for everything, and we appreciate his work. And would encourage you, if you've never seen Ag Day, get out there on the 29th. I think I sent a thing out to the staff and put the wrong date. I was actually just trying to make sure nobody got out there and got any of the food before I did. But it's really in our community where we have such a background in that, and it's really an important event. It's not just a cool event, but I think it's really an important event to connect with our community and to kids. It's almost a little bit, it is an Ag Day, but it's also a little bit of a career fair. It's just really a neat thing. And it covers all kinds of stuff. So seriously, try to at least get out there and walk through it once. You'll be impressed. So that's it.
Question?
SRO, Brad.
Yeah.
Was there any discussion about if we brought a certain amount of money to the table, we could keep it?
And no, there has not been, because they are, my understanding and talking with Sheriff Rouser and Sergeant Cordova is they're cut back significantly. And I don't think they could, even if we could come up with a pretty decent amount of money, not only could they, we could certainly approach that with them. And I know they'd listen. But I know they are really stretched right now. So having the personnel to do that would be, I think, very difficult for them. And quite honestly, on our end, it'd be a very, we don't have a lot to kick in. But I certainly would visit with Sheriff Rouser and see what it would take and what it would do.
Mr. Smith and I
So-
actually started looking at some grants, just looking to see if
Right.
we could find anything. So we're on kind of the same thought process as Matt. Is there any way we can help? with
And
this?
there was a time that there was, there was a time when there was a grant for it. And we've been really fortunate because they've felt that was an important spot to have somebody in and just did it. And we've reaped those benefits, but, yeah, I can certainly visit with Sheriff Rouser and see what it would take and
Yeah, I
His thoughts.
observed Deputy Cordova a lot with those kids, and his interaction is just, it's beyond words, really. It's a force multiplier for our retention of probably high-risk kids here in school. And not only most importantly, important to keep those kids in school, but by doing that from a business perspective is that keeps money in the school. And those kids, they make all the difference. And if you have someone like that, that's the glue that's holding them to the school, I think it's worth taking a hard look at getting grants, making sure if we can come to a creative solution, if it's a 50-50, 30-70 or something, it's huge for the school. And I think as a board, to give us some heads up to think about and consider is when we're talking about positions and restructuring and whatnot, we need to come together on what those priorities should be. And in my mind, having an SRO officer here, because of what I just stated, would be a top priority for all the above. And maybe more to follow on that as we move forward in the school year and we look at the budget. But he's bearing a lot of fruit for us and for our kids. And I hate to see him go. That's going to leave a big mark here. So anyway, for what that's worth.
I'll visit with Sheriff Rouser.
Yeah, just what kind of options would be available. Seems like one day a week, or half a day, something.
Yeah.
That would be beneficial just to keep those relationships up that you have already started.
Yeah, and I know, and I guess, one thing I do know, and I certainly will visit with them, and I know they'd be open to listening, but, I think they are anticipating being stretched so thin that I don't know what resources they would even have, but, worth a conversation for sure.
And if I want to address to just the folks that are here tonight is you all here in the school with relatives and friends and colleagues, you can touch a lot of people. And I really encourage you to have that discussion on that mill levy that did not pass. That is a huge game changer, not only for the school, but for our police department. We've got to back the blue, right? I mean, they're keeping us safe, whatnot. We've got to come together. I'm the number one guy in hating to pay more property taxes, all right? But there are some things that are worth it. And that mill levy was worth it. And so I really implore you all, please, just start talking with folks. Talk with everyone that you know, and just make sure they understand the effect of what this is happening, not only at the school, but what you're going to see here in the near future on our streets not have as much coverage as they should. So thank you. That's all.
Okay, committee meetings.
We did have a transportation committee meeting. It was a student services transportation committee meeting. There's an agenda item that is, I guess, the fruits of our labor, we hope. We've looked at a lot of different buses. I know more about bus lingo than I ever cared to know. Still know how to drive. But that'll be an agenda item shortly.
Yeah, I'm gonna say the same thing for negotiations. We've got some agenda items to deal with, so I'll just save those comments for that time. Letter to county sanitarian regarding the summer food program.
And that's just the next phase of the program you approved a month ago, that summer food service program down at the park, and we just need to let the sanitarian know that we will be doing that, make sure everything's in order there.
All right, moving into consent action items, minutes and warrants.
Just real quick, point of order, Mr. Chair. This letter dated May 12th, does everyone have a copy of this?
It just came to the office today.
Today's May 13th.
It came just prior to the meeting.
Okay.
I picked it up on that.
Okay.
It
All
was,
right. Has everyone got a chance to see it?
Adam.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, minutes and warrants.
I'll move to approve the minutes and warrants as presented.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes and warrants as presented. Is there any discussion?
Yes. On the minutes. 2.1, part 2. You know when you're there. Part 2, 2.1, at 50 minutes and 30 seconds. Part 2, at 50 minutes and 40 seconds.
yeah.
Ed girls basketball.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Okay, so one there. Okay, prior to, you had asked, Mr. Chair, if people need to get pulled out. I was the only one that responded with Coach Lawson. There was no Kevin Reed in that, it was just Lawson. It's very clear on the video. And so this motion by Daniel Truesdale should just be for Coach Lawson, not Kevin Reed. Kevin Reed was approved with the rest of the bulk of the coaches.
No, we pulled all of the, because the assistant coaches basically follow. If we don't renew a head coach, the new head coach has the opportunity to go. So we pulled all of the girls basketball coaches when we removed them. So the motion should correct be just for David Lawson, but we did remove, so they had, the assistant coaches haven't been approved yet.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that was clear. And then I would like to add in the minutes that I addressed the chair and asked you on 2 different occasions to go to an executive session. I'd like that to get added into the minutes.
3.
So that's, if you're good with those amendments, I'm good with it.
There's actually one more on that same part. It's David Lawson submitted his letter for right of privacy. It should say waiving his right of privacy. Okay, any other,
Hang on one second. You got it all?
Yeah.
Okay.
any other comments, discussion on minutes and warrants?
The warrants. MTSB membership renewal, the policy maintenance service for 1856. Is that a one-time situation or is that ongoing?
It's a year.
So really our dues for MTSB is close to 8,000, 7,000 a year. Is that correct? I guess what do we get for the policy maintenance service? I understand the benefits we get for the renewal portion, but what do we get for the policy maintenance? And is that,
They're providing the platform that our policy is on that people can, anybody in the district can access it. When we make adjustments or changes to it, they make those for us. They also make recommendations to us or to the superintendent as the laws change that says, hey, we need to address this policy and we need to have it updated. So they're monitoring that and making recommendations for us, and then they maintain the site in which it's all presented.
All of those model policies, when we do those, that then we basically tailor to us. The model policies are all done by NTSBA. So
Is that a separate service we can elect not to do that?
we could, yes,
But
it's
just,
right. And it is, right, there are some other legal services out there that will do that, similarly priced. And it is, in my opinion, a good idea to have those, because then your policies are always current, up to date with the most recent things that have been decided, whether by courts, whether by legislature, whatever. So it's a pretty good service, and they're really good at helping us address them, I guess, to our specific needs when needed. If we want to change one to meet our needs, it's not necessarily the standard model or whatever. And with that, they help us also interpret those a little bit when needed.
no, I just didn't know that, I wasn't aware of that latter part, but if it was just that first part, we could probably house those policies on our website, but if there's more to it than just that.
Right.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, any further discussion? Any public comment? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passed. Action items, board reorganization. So as a result of the election annually, the board must choose to appoint a chair, a vice chair, and recruit a district clerk for the coming year. We'll start with the chair. Are there nominations for the chair?
I move to approve Jason Noyes as board chairman.
I'm going to declare Chase.
Any other nominations? Okay. So there's two nominations on the floor. Is there any discussion? Discussion? Is there any public comment?
I would just say that in consideration of this vote, there's, that Jason does have a lot of institutional knowledge and understanding of past school. And it's not that Chase at some point could make a good chair, but I think at this time it's still important. They're all still pretty early in, some of are early in learning the board. And I also think it's just very valuable. This position does have to have a strong understanding of open meeting laws and how that works. And I would ask that that is taken into consideration in this vote as well.
Any other public comment? Okay. We'll do roll call vote. Jason,
Mr. Noyes.
I will vote for myself. Jason will vote for himself.
No, I didn't say that.
Okay. I'm sorry,
That's
made an
something-
assumption there.
That's something I've never done in my life, so I will abstain.
Noyes.
Okay. Mr. Noyes has been selected as the chair. Nominations for vice chair.
Mr. Ray.
I'll second.
Are there any other nominations? Okay. So now we'll do one motion to approve.
If you accept.
One motion to approve, or I guess I need a motion to approve the three names that are now in that column. Yes, one motion for that.
The third being Courtney
Third
Payne.
being Courtney Payne. Yep.
I'll move Jason Noyes as chair, Chase Reagan as vice chair, and Courtney Bancroft as district clerk.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Jason Noyes as board chair, Chase Reagan as vice chair, and Courtney Bancroft as district clerk. Is there any discussion?
It's not a matter of personal, my vote does not reflect that at all. Mr. Noyes has done a great job trying to keep this big train on the rails. And I think that there's good we can do now with, I didn't make it with the board, but also want to bring a sense of peace and consistency to the district as well. With a change in superintendent, change in middle school principal, relatively new elementary principal, I think it just benefits to bring some sense of peace to the district. That's my
Discussion? Any public comment? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. Committee assignments. Definitely need to make the changes with where
The committees, Adam, can be found on the very second page of the. The new guy usually gets on all of them just to get the experience.
We'll just go through committee by committee. Student Services Committee, presently we have Vanessa Flynn, Chase Reagan, alternate Daniel Truesdale. Obviously, we got to change that. Is there other changes to that committee?
I'd like to be on student services if possible.
Okay.
And Adam, if you have any questions about what each committee does or how, I just ask. I don't know if you're, I know a couple of them you're familiar with a little bit, but yeah.
We saved the best for
Yeah, I'd like to remain on that as well.
I can be an alternate or.
Okay. Jason Cool, Chase Reagan, Vanessa Flynn will move to Curriculum Committee, Jason Noyes, Jason Cool, alternate Vanessa Flynn.
I too would like to remain on that committee.
Not to change anything else? Okay, we'll leave that one alone. Operations, Insurance and Facilities, Jason Noyes, alternate Jason Cool, Daniel Truesdale will need to be replaced.
I can, unless Adam wants to.
Let's jump right in.
All right.
Good job, man. Let's go.
Okay. Community involvement, we have Vanessa Flynn, we place Daniel, and alternate Jason Noyes.
I'm happy to stay.
Okay, so that'll be Vanessa Flynn, Adam Brakefield, alternate Jason Noyes. Negotiations, Jason Chase, alternate Vanessa Flynn.
Vanessa, would you be okay if I switch with you? If I jumped onto that, or do you want to stay in negotiation?
Go for it.
I just haven't been a part of it yet, so I want to.
Or you can move me to the alternate. Mr. Chair.
I was taking the alternate position. You're staying the main seat, buddy.
Oh, you gotta jump in while the water's warm, man.
I think it would be good, Jason, if you're willing to.
Yeah, I can try.
Okay.
I got a lot of committees already.
I'll be honest, I would love to get off. And if it hadn't been for what we're gonna discuss here in a little bit. I would probably be more adamant about getting off of it, but we made some pretty substantial changes to the matrix this year, and I feel like I probably better be there to either suffer the consequences or at least help keep that train moving because of what we did this year. Otherwise, yes, I had planned to get off. All right, library board.
So, hold on, just one point of clarification. Were you gonna go to the alternate?
He's in the alternate.
You're good with that?
Mhm.
And you're on.
I guess so.
Yeah, Jason Noyes, Jason Cool, alternate Chase Reagan. We really fight. Library board.
It's really not.
I shouldn't, I know, I shouldn't pick.
I
on
love
that.
it. I want to stay there.
All right.
It's not a bad opportunity, especially to see how the community's piece of it ties in with the school. But I am not going to stay on.
You are on a lot of.
It's great, I just don't want to do it anymore.
It is good. I could give up something else if you really desire that I stay.
All right. Library board, Vanessa Flynn and Adam Britfield. All right, so if we could have a motion to approve those as presented.
I move to approve as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the committee assignments as presented. Is there any discussion? Discussion? Any public comment? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. Request county election administrator to conduct the 2025-2026 election.
And that's just kind of a point of law that we have to request that from Andrew Paulson, who was here earlier. And any election that we may choose to run, she would do. And if not, it's up to Courtney.
Yep.
So, and that's something we traditionally do. We always ask her to do that.
Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve the request for the Broadwater County Election Administrator to conduct school elections in the upcoming year.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the request of Broadwater County Election Administrator to conduct school elections in the upcoming year. Is there any discussion? Discussion? Any public comment? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. Consideration of 2025-2026 representative to the Prickly Pear Co-op Board.
Again, that is more or less just something we have to make official. Kind of with my dual roles, Mr. Cook has been serving on that. But I would prefer to do that when I go to being just superintendent. I think that's a good opportunity for me in my district. And the Prickly Pear Co-op Board is our special ed cooperative that all the many of the area schools are a part of. So I would request that you approve me as the representative to that.
I'll move to approve Brad Rock as the district representative to Prickly Pear Co-op Board.
Been moved and seconded to approve Brad Rock as the district representative to the Prickly Pear Co-op Board. Any discussion? Discussion? Yeah, this is a good, again, just a formality, but it's a good opportunity for Brad. I think most of the individuals on that board are other superintendents from other districts, and it's a good time for him to collaborate with them. This is a good thing for us and our school. Discussion? Any public comment? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. Consideration of bus purchase.
So in section 3.5 is what would be an invoice from Milani Bus LLC. Our transportation committee, which is part of the student services committee, has met several times over. This has been a long process of trying to find a bus that serves our needs, and just a reminder to everybody, for about I don't even know how many times, this money is in our bus depreciation fund. It can be spent on one thing and one thing only, and that is a new bus. So we're not using general fund money. It is money that is the purpose of it. And we looked, I'd like to thank Ed, Lida, Jeremy Rice, and TJ Byrne. They put in a lot of time with us trying to help us locate buses. We've looked at used buses, very used buses, slightly used buses, brand new buses that we couldn't afford. And we finally found one that we think very much suits our needs. We have $411,000 in that fund. My big concern with buying a brand new one has been, I don't want to wipe that out in case we have a bus that goes down before that bus is built back up. Or before that fund is built back up. The bus we found is new, and I'll actually let Jeremy, would you mind discussing a little bit of that? And then I'll let people that were on, and Daniel Truesdale was part of that committee. But go ahead if you could address that.
So what we found is that it's a 2025 Freightliner chassis with the coach letter body on it, just like the 2020 that we have currently. It's the same 51 passenger. It is a bigger bus, so the seats, it's a wider aisle. There's some of the kids that have complained about before. But everything is the same, 6.7 tons in it. It'll have delivery miles only, so it should be less than 1,000. As of right now, they'll get it to Chicago for us. Maybe closer if we can try to move that, and then we can get somebody flying out there to bring it back for us. So we still would maintain our 3-year, 36,000 warranty on it as well. So.
Thank you. And a couple of key points with that is the engine and the chassis you mentioned are both what the guys that have worked on the buses, driven the buses, recommend for our availability of parts, ease of service, all of those things. This bus serves our needs. It is, it is more of a base model, which is why the price is a little lower. There's some bells and whistles it probably doesn't have, but it definitely serves our needs. And the idea of shipping it by flying, and we have somebody that would go out there and get it for us. We could pay for that, and it could save us close to $5,000 just by having somebody go out, pick it up, and drive it back for us. So I think that's a good option. But Vanessa was part of the committee. Do you have any?
No, I think you covered it all. Is it a 57 seater though?
It's a 51.
It's 51.
So we did find that out. It was under the impression it was.
Okay.
But 51, just to be clear, because when we looked at these, we were under the impression it was seated a few more, but it fits fills our needs.
Yeah,
yes.
51 is the same as what we have now, so that will serve everything we need. So yes.
Is there a motion? Any doubts?
No, we really looked extensively, and I looked. They put in significant time looking, and we feel my big concern just has been I like the things I like the most, or we still get that factory warranty, which I think is important for us. I was fine with buying a used, but when you buy used, there's always that little thing of why they trade it in, or what don't we know, even with the best mechanics looking through it or whatever. And my biggest concern was completely wiping out that fund. This will leave us some good seed money as we build up for the next one, or in case of emergency of being down a bus. We do know there are some other options, in the $100,000 range that we could get in a pinch with the money left. So I'm comfortable with it, and the guys that know a lot more about buses than I do are comfortable with it. So
Lot better place than you were a month ago, the last meeting.
I was, yeah, that one we were looking at there was brand new and I was very concerned about because we would have had to kick in probably some general fund money for that bus and I wasn't comfortable with that. This one I think is, you know, I kind of felt almost too good to be true and was very concerned about it being gone by the time we got around to a meeting to approve it. But I am comfortable and I think it's a good bus for our purposes. And I think everybody on the committee agreed with that. And I have it on record in my minutes from that Jeremy said it's going to be exactly what we want. I may have added those in after the meeting. I think it's a good bus for our purposes.
Yeah, I make a comment about it too. This is like the Freightliner that we have. We've been real happy with the Freightliner we've got. It is a brand new bus. It doesn't have the bells and whistles like the one we have, but we can live without that. It will serve us well. I'm very happy with the company that built it. We just happened to go through a different way of getting to the purchase, which is not bad either. So, yeah, I'm totally with this one. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you guys, that everybody that was on the committee and helped us because it was a lot of work looking through those.
I would just like to add, having been on the committee, just to put that in perspective, we did price a new bus altogether. It was $447,000 to get it off the lot. So getting a brand new bus for $120,000 less than that is significant consideration. Just bring that here.
And again, and again, I think we mentioned it, but this is it'd be like, I guess, buying a 25 model vehicle when the 26s are on the lot. And they obviously get, you know, they're brand new, have all the warranties, but, you know, they're starting to get new product in. So I think that's a part of why we get a little better price.
Yeah, I just want to highlight, Daniel, thanks so much for your work on that. It did not go unnoticed. There was a lot of time and research that you dove in on that committee, so appreciate it. I'll make a motion to move to approve the purchase of the 25 Freightliner executive coach as described.
I can second that.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve the purchase of the 2025 Freightliner executive coach as described. Any discussion?
Just so I'm understanding correctly, right? The rest, that bus depreciation fund couldn't be used to 15 passenger vans or Suburban.
Correct.
Has to be
Yes.
strictly Class E.
Yeah.
Motor. Just trying to make sure, because that's really the utility that we think as a district. also
Right.
needs
And
is
we
that
checked, you know, I
ability
checked
to
on
take
that.
10
you know.
baseball players to a game with a coach versus driving this thing to a game. You know what I mean?
Right, and we checked on being able to buy like a van or you know, basically it's something that has to have a CDL to, you know, is what you can buy with that. Because yeah, that is a big need we have, is something that can haul those smaller groups when we need it, and ideally one that can be driven without you know, a CDL, and that
You're using the van and the
they don't
Suburban.
qualify
And the driver said.
with the
no.
bus
And
depreciation.
they're volunteers and everything. Couldn't lack of that.
And we checked with OPI on that, the transportation person there, got clarification.
Any further discussion?
Just a huge thank you, Jeremy, and EJ, all you guys, and Daniel too, and Mr. Cook. You know, he sent some bus proposals one day. Just thank you guys for all the in-depth research on this and putting all together. Really appreciate your expertise and willing to jump in.
Discussion? Any public comment? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion passed. Consideration of job description for district clerk.
So with the STARS Act, part of that is an updated district clerk job description, and this one serves the purposes we need to qualify for that. So I would recommend we approve the updated district clerk job description to be in compliance with the STARS Act.
I'll move to approve the updated job description for district clerk.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the updated job description for the district clerk. Is there any discussion? Discussion?
Thank you.
It does say you run the elections.
Any public comment? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passed. Consideration of contract for Mark Irvin, middle school principal.
And this is just the official document for Mark Irvin, who was approved as the new middle school principal last month. And this would be the contract for his employment as what was agreed upon after hiring.
I'll move to approve the contract with Mark Urban for middle school principal as presented.
Second. It's been a motion to approve, been moved and seconded to approve the contract for Mark Irvin for middle school principal as presented. Is there any discussion?
I'm having a hard time with this one. And make no mistake, it has nothing to do with Mark or the committee or the work that was done. I want to be clear on that. We're in a fiscally budget constrained environment, and I want to get more money to our teachers. They're a priority when it comes to budget. We're losing the SRO officer, which we might need to figure out a way to subsidize that with the sheriff's department. And I'm thinking of these priorities, and I know, Brad, you and I, we had a long discussion on this, and I just, from a business perspective, running a business, I would not hire him for this amount of salary with the number of kids in the middle school. The number of kids in the middle school does not justify that salary from a business perspective. The numbers don't make sense. When I compare it to the number of kids that Stephen Cook has, that Sherry has, I'm struggling with this. And it would, in my mind, the $40,000 to $45,000 salary, yeah, he's worth way more than that. Absolutely, make no mistake. But the fact that we didn't even try at that lower salary scale, I'm just struggling. And I don't know the right way, and I'm glad that we're aboard because I want to hear what everyone else's perspective is on this. And Brad, Sherry, Steve, too, please chime in. And I'd like to hear from the teachers as well, or anyone else that's here. So. please.
I'll start.
Yes.
First of all, and this isn't a Mark Irvin issue, this is a middle school principal position. I kind of laugh all the time because you talk to any person, you go, I work in a school. What do you do? I work in a middle school. Oh my gosh. How do you, and then what do you do? I'm a principal. Oh my good. But yet every time we want to cut or save money, where do we do it? We do it out of the middle school. Oh, we can just lump them in with the high school. We can lump them in. And yet over and over, you hear what a hard time in their life. What a difficult time for them. This is where they need, but yet you want to take away the services from it. And I can tell you I challenge anybody, come shadow me for a day, man. It's you are earning your money. And I will say, and I'm just, and this is no disrespect to the job that anybody else does, but a kid, a number is numbers don't tell the whole story. You know, I'm yet to, and I've done them. I've done both jobs. I've done the elementary job. I've done the middle school job. I've done them both. I've worked in the high school. And, you know, to say, I mean, if we're going to adjust that, there's some years, probably the middle school, when you're talking about I mean, you're going to do that with, you deal with entirely different issues as an elementary principal when you're dealing with K1, 2, 3 than you do with kids that are in 6, 7, 8. It's a whole different deal. You also have a tremendous amount of extracurricular supervision. And one thing I'm not on board with is I do not think, and I will, the principals, for one, they work, and teachers work extremely hard. I know, I've been a teacher. I've been there. And I know that, but they also are required to be here another month, which is, you got to figure that into their salary. Plus, like, activities don't count as one of their work days. And I will never be on board with a situation where the person supervising is making less than the people they're supposed to supervise. That's a completely backward system, and I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't expect anybody else to do it. And I think it's money well spent. And I think to get, I mean, quite honestly, I had a lot of people call and we told them what we paid, and they just weren't interested after that. So, for this price. So, you know, if tell them that would be the very high end. So that's my perspective on it as somebody that's done it. And I know, I agree, money, I think, you know, I can tell you this, when we were in, I guess I'd open it up to anybody else who wants to talk. That's my perspective on it.
I think a lot of things that get overshadowed or forgotten, as Brad kind of alluded to, is that it's not just numbers of kids versus what the job is, and he alluded to a lot of other things. It's supervision and evaluation of all of the staff. It's so multifaceted and so consuming all day, every day, and that's just not even the day-to-day running of the buildings or dealing with the students, the parents, the phone calls, the activities. Middle school isn't entirely different from the high school either. And I think, to me, it's so important to have a very strong administrative team. Our school and our district is only going to be as strong as the leadership in the buildings. And if we have a good core, solid, team to lead the staff and the students in the right direction, I feel like that is just very important and definitely worth the investment. Hire quality people that have experience, that know what they're doing, especially in years of high transition and a lot of changes like we have right now. That's one of the reasons we looked at, not Stephen Prickett as an individual, but looked at somebody who could step in, do the job without a ton of, extra pressure or need for training or mentoring or anything like that. I know that was one of the points of discussion when we interviewed the principals. So if you look at competitive salaries, even for starting principals, this is actually, it's great to have somebody of this caliber step into that position for that compensation. We were last.
And the only thing I'm going to add to it is this is a K-12 school district, but when you deal with like the accreditation that Brad was talking about, it's a K, I don't know why it's K6. I better shut up, huh? And it's a 7-8 school. It's a K6, 7-8, and 9-12. And that's 3 different reporting requirements. There's accreditation reports, there's grants that affect those 3 different schools in different ways. There's, there's reporting, like I said, reporting requirements. So it's not really as much about the number of kids as it is about, what the government requires of that organization. And sometimes it's a lot. And again, I'm going to support the extracurricular. I will admit that I don't have a lot of extracurricular like the 7th and 8th grade sports, and definitely the high school sports. So, I guess that's my 2 cents. Is there's so much stuff going on that people don't realize because everybody wants, you know, how did you spend that dime at the middle school? Well, this is how we spend it. Well, you shouldn't have done it that way. Fill out these 14 reports so that you can, you know, fix it. It's just all sorts of things going on like that. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I've been on the board for 7 years and on the negotiations committee for 6 and spent multiple thousands of hours, it feels like, looking at the budget and having the same discussion over and over. And, years ago, we went down to a 2-principal system, and
I'm not talking about 2, I'm talking about $40,000 out. And I want to be clear on that.
yeah, but anyway, we went to a 2-principal system and we realized that was not sustainable. And we've watched other districts do the same thing. And so you get back to, okay, we have to have, or we need to have the 3 administrators, and we have to have quality administrators. It takes that amount of money to get somebody that is qualified and I think acceptable to do the job. This guy came highly recommended, and he is taking a massive pay cut to come do this job for us. And I feel like we're extremely fortunate to get the individual that we're getting at the price point that we're getting.
Can I ask, I'm confused a little bit to what your reference to the 40,000?
My question is specifically, was he asked if he'd do it for 45 or 40? Or did we, before we
Be a principal for 40,000?
We have a third of the numbers that.
We can call him up now, and I don't think you're gonna get
The reason I bring this up is I believe there was an applicant that would have done it for less, and the question was never asked.
No, our job here, and just, I will tell you this, with even teaching applicants,
Okay.
we have, I'll put this into perspective. We have teaching applicants that we could save money on because they're brand new. Our goal is to hire the best people we can for the position. We want good people. I did not ask any of them in the interview. It was never said, how low will you go for us to get you? No, but that is what you're asking. You said we didn't ask.
There's a technique to it, Brad. Don't put words in there.
Oh, there's a technique to going, will you do this job for $40,000? I'm not on board with that, man. I'm not.
That
I'm
you're
not
taking it out of context.
No, I'm not. I think you are, that we're gonna get a principal for $40,000. That's not even STARS Act qualified.
There's 158 kids in the middle school versus 400 in K through 5. From a business perspective,
But they're not apples to apples.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
Can't just
that's,
look at the student numbers.
hey, that's why this is the reason we have Robert's Rule orders, is we want to hear both sides. I want to hear both sides. How long you been in education?
31 years.
Okay. How long have I been doing this?
Couple, yes.
2 years. So I think you're out of order right now, acting this way. I'm just asking general questions, and I want to hear from everyone. You
Again,
spoke.
Yeah.
I want to hear from the other board members. I want to hear from people out here. It's important.
I'm
So I
interested
can-
too.
So I
to
can
hear
make
from
an
them.
informed decision.
You can't hire a beginning teacher for $40,000 to take over a classroom. The STARS Act went up to.
Let's wait just a minute. Any other discussion from the board?
I guess I can see the logic partly where Chase is coming from. I don't think 40,000 is anywhere close. The reason I say that is because we're offering retirement incentives to move or kick out really high-paid teachers because they are high-paid. Or at least encourage them to take that money and run. I don't see that different than this same concept of gotta hire a really highly qualified, highly skilled, highly qualified, I guess, individual for a high dollar amount when we're trying to do the opposite with teachers. which is those that are most qualified. Here's a retirement incentive. We'd like you to leave so we can hire cheaper teachers. It's a budget savings. So I can see the logic there. At the same time, I don't want to hire underqualified or less qualified people. Do I think you could do it for 55, 60, 65? Maybe. 40, no. 45, no. 40, I mean, it's all a numbers game, but I don't, that's what I think, I guess what I would say that maybe, I don't put words in Jason's mouth. I think that's what he's asking is, if we had 20,000 to give to the sheriff's office, would that make a difference between keeping an SRA or SRO here? Yes or no? We don't know. That's I guess where I come at it from is we're trying to have the same conversation, but we're treating it different. That maybe we're not, but at least in my mind we are.
You've been here long enough.
Right. The only thing I can really say is that, you know, and I'm ignorant on some of our budget stuff as of right now. The CBAs that I've been involved in negotiating here recently, money's a hot topic. And it's hard to keep skilled employees and retain skilled employees and hire skilled employees. So, I mean, I see both sides of it fiscally, and you know, it's a tough environment these days, and to retain and get those qualified people here is not easy. And unfortunately, one of the boils down to money.
Vanessa. Yeah.
Yeah, so here's the deal, is 15 years ago, we hit hard times at our office. And so from a business perspective, we had to get creative outside the box. I couldn't afford to bring on someone at full salary with full benefits. So I had to come up with a creative solution. I took their salary in half and then ended up giving them the whole summers off as an example. So what I'm trying to get our administration to start thinking about as we get into these fiscally constrained environments, and if teachers are a priority, how can we get creative? We got to think outside the box. Did we even ask the question, hey, would you do it for 40 or 45 if it's part-time? Is it even feasible? It's asking the questions and starting the discussion, and maybe he would have brought something else back that would have been, oh, didn't think about that. If anything that I'm trying to convey here is we've got to get out of inside the box when it comes to our finances, especially when we're losing a key critical position as a SRO. That's huge. That's what I would like to see is start thinking differently. We have to, for our kids.
Any other discussion?
Discuss that.
Public comment.
Is that fine? John Odell, from the AD. I've been here 25 years, and I know the importance of principles. I'm a teacher, and you know, the day-to-day operation of a middle school job is huge. And if you talk about for our kids, that principle is there for our kids all day long. And it's a very important job. And to say 40, 45 for a professional that is tenured, seasoned, that's an insult. And it really is. I mean, you have to offer a value. And, you know, do we need an SRO? Maybe. Not as much as a middle school principal. Not at all. I don't think. If I had to cut one of those two positions, it'd be the SRO. For sure. They're a block away. But there's been no emergencies at our school at all. I mean, does he do a job? Does he have a relationship with the kids? Yes. But if you have to prioritize, it's definitely a principal. That's a leader of your district. And I'd like to know from the middle school staff, do they value their principal or not? If they don't, then that's the problem. But I would venture a guess that they do.
I don't think anyone's going to say no.
What's that?
I don't think he was gonna say that.
Well, you're devaluing the job.
No, I'm trying to get discussion out there, John. I'm
Yeah,
not
go
trying to-
ahead. I mean, talk about.
Mr.
middle school
Knob,
principal.
that is, Philip Knob, it seems like there's a lot of focus on the SRO position, and that is very unfortunate. To me, it would seem that if you have a highly qualified individual,
Yes,
it would be worth it to invest in that person as opposed to watering down and potentially watering down that salary to pay for an SRO. So you have a potentially marginal inexperienced person and maybe a part-time SRO, but a high-quality individual that may cost more can fill that role as an SRO, so to speak.
Levi Manzi, middle school teacher. We'll talk about middle school and how difficult it is. I'd love to chat with you anytime. I agree. Brad Rock points out that middle school is a very challenging place, and I will say that I think we have an extremely great middle school staff. We're losing a great middle school principal who we greatly respect, and a very qualified individual. Losing him, we're sending him off to a higher position. But I say that we have a great staff because we've had a qualified principal in there. If you want to be there for the teachers, one thing that would cripple teachers is not have good leadership. And so I think that's worth paying for. I think that's worth investing into. I know the number's been thrown around, but to pay somebody what you're suggesting is absolutely outrageous. I think it's been brought up to say that teachers who would be making more than their supervisor would be just that's not going to work. The respect's not going to be there. So I am highly in support of hiring a qualified staff member, and so I think if you want to maintain the quality of education, the quality of leadership for the teachers to look up to, which trickles down. We continue to say we're here for the kids. I work closely with Brad, both my classroom locationally and personally. I know him well. He has his job is beyond demanding, and to criticize the number of students to say that, oh, the middle school only has 155, that does not lessen the workload. And so the middle school principal's job is extremely demanding. We need a qualified person in there, and we need to pay them so that we don't get a lesser rate individual in there. And so just if we want to maintain high quality education, let's get somebody in there that's qualified. It's worth it. And so it's a hard job. We need to fill it with somebody that's qualified.
My name's Courtney Johnson. My oldest kid is in middle school. I've been promised his promotion will go back to normal in high school. So I'm here to tell you. So I'm here to say I've had to interact with Brad Rock as an emotional parent dealing with a child who's being emotional. So it's very important to have a principal who's going to have parents come to them who are emotional, because of course we're taking our kids' side sometimes wrongly. I mean, hey, they're advocates, right? But having somebody that sits down and is like, hey, let's bring the emotion back. Let's calm down with the experience. Also, I research everything, so I was curious what a principal requires. They don't get to just be, oh, I'm going to be a principal tomorrow. They have to first go to college. They got to be an educator. They got to be licensed as a teacher. Don't get me started on underpaid teachers. Then they have to do the other certification and training to be a principal. Any other profession that goes to college and has to have prior or certification, they're not being talked to about, oh, you're going to live in the middle of nowhere, Montana, so I'm going to pay you $45,000. It's going to be, I want a licensed, knowledgeable person. What do I have to pay to get that? It's not the discussion of quality over quantity. Yeah, we all want as many teachers as we can. The other, and student resource officers, but when it comes to quality, that's more important. Also, I'd like to point out, my younger two kids are in kindergarten and second grade, and I have listened to reports of how we're having massive enrollment in elementary school, and we're seeing record-breaking enrollment in our kindergarten classes.
at some point, those kids become middle schoolers. So if we hamstring our middle school that is already having to deal with TV groups, that's just setting us up to take 5 steps back so that when my kindergartner's in 6th grade, we might not have the infrastructure we currently have to take care of her emotional turmoil. So I would hope that in the discussions, we're stopping watering down the discussion and looking at the worth of what we're getting for our money. Yes, we have a limited amount. We always are going to have a limited amount in government and quasi-governments. But instead of saying, okay, I want to cut this dollar in half, we need to look at what is really important right now. Unfortunately, right now, we need a principal to deal with the emotions of our kids and to keep a good staff in our middle school. Student resource officers are great. Luckily, we live in a small town. We all know everybody. We all step in, we help each other. So while having that student resource officer would be amazing, we can all, parents, teachers, administrators, with good staff, help fill that void of having a police officer sitting in the school. That's just something.
Daniel Drusel, as you guys know. I'll take it maybe a little bit different stance on this, Chase, to kind of direct more of your question maybe. Something to also consider is looking at that from the apples to apples numbers where what Mr. Cook has to be responsible for compared to what the middle school principal has to be responsible numbers wise. I don't want to say I support that idea, but on that theory, one thing that Mr. Cook is not responsible for is also all the after school activities that a middle school principal is responsible for. So maybe to help justify that extra cost, one thing to keep in mind is it's not necessarily just that day to day and the number of students they're responsible for, but all the after school academics that that administrators are responsible for attending. So maybe that helps kind of put that in perspective too, that there is, the numbers are different, but their responsibilities do have different responsibilities and there are some increased responsibilities. Maybe that helps through that process.
Any further public comment?
Yeah, I got a recruitment call for a middle school principal in Washington. I don't know what the starting salary is there. It's $170,000.
Are you going? Are you going?
Let me conclude since I opened up this. Thank you all for the feedback because it helps. It not only helps with this situation here specifically, but it helps when we're talking about raises and negotiations and where you guys believe the priority should be, where you guys should be priorities. Because I have a different lens I look through things, school safety being top priority. So that's the lens I look through, but I understand and I heard what you're saying. So thank you for that. That's why I opened up with, I'm struggling with this and I want to hear from everyone. And I did. So thank you.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Consideration of classified collective bargaining agreement. So I guess I just want to summarize quickly both union groups together. I appreciate, their involvement and their time. We tried to work, at a fast pace, 3 Wednesdays in a row, trying to get this done in as quick as fashion as we could and yet get through all of the items that each party wanted to discuss. And, especially in regards to the certified agreement to meet, a deadline that's approaching with the STARS Act. So I appreciate both teams very much and the collaborative effort that went together to get this put together. The highlight, I guess, a big item on the classified agreement you'll see in red is the language to allow classified employees to have their holidays be floating days. And it took a little bit for me to really understand and grasp what it was they were wanting to do. And, you know, to try to summarize it here in a few minutes, I probably won't do it justice, but they're not additional days that they're getting. They're the paid holidays that they were already receiving. They just asked for the ability to move when they take that pay. And predominantly what the scenario that was brought forth was the long extended Christmas break, where those employees do not work. By floating those holiday day pays, rather than taking them one at a time or two at a time as they come month by month, they would have the ability to hold that, delay that, and take that over that Christmas break. So that when that pay period comes around, rather than having, you know, this massive void of hours that they would have normally gotten a paycheck for, they will at least have something. And so it's, you know, it's just a way to kind of spread that money around for them. Again, they're not additional holidays. It's not costing us any additional money than what they already were getting. We've just given them the ability to move when they take those dollars. And so there's the only split is the difference between the full-time year-round having the ability to float all 10 of their days, and those that are part-time seasonal, they get 6 of those days that they're paid for, so they have the ability to float 6 of those. Now, with that, you know, one of the big items that kind of gave me a little bit of heartburn there right at the end was, okay, if they're allowed to advance those days, say, to the Christmas break, but they're not holidays they wouldn't have been paid for until springtime. Well, what happens if we pay them for that and then that job is terminated, either because they resign, something happens, and they added, you know, the language in there. If an employee uses the floating holiday hours in advance of the associated holiday and subsequently separates from employment before the holiday occurs, the district reserves the right to recover the value of those hours. Repayment may be made through available vacation leave balances, payroll deduction as permitted by law. With that statement in there, it gave me the peace of mind that, you know, we can all work together and make this work out, and it wouldn't be a liability for the district. The final thing on that agreement was we did negotiate for a 2-year agreement, a 3% raise on both years. And then we made some changes to those later years. Previously, the document would have gone, I think, to 31 or 32 years. We had a little bit of complication in that the values that those steps moved each year were not the same. And obviously, the higher you get up on the matrix, the bigger those values become. So we agreed that once you get past year 26, each year that raise will just be a flat 50-cent additional raise to the value that's there before, rather than it being a step that changes with each percentage of the raise. So those are the highlights, or those are the points that we negotiated this year. So those are the items. The classified union ratified that agreement this morning. I believe I saw Luke at one point. Yep, he's there. If you have anything you want to add to that. You did a fantastic job. Okay.
All I noticed was the full-time had an extra holiday. Was it intended to be that way? They have-
Full-time has 10 holidays that they're paid.
Right, on the list of holidays, they have Columbus Day, whereas the part-time employees do not.
Right, and then, so I guess we didn't, those were dates that were already in the previous agreement, so we didn't address changing those dates, so those dates were there from previous. Yeah, That's a lot to take in on that. We're really quite sure about who
Well,
classified as anybody that doesn't hold a certificate as either a teacher. So our custodians, kitchen workers, paraprofessionals. They're two separate unions. So if there isn't any questions, we need a motion to approve that collective bargaining agreement.
I'll move to approve the classified collective bargaining agreement as presented.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the classified collective bargaining agreement as presented. Is there any discussion? Discussion? Is there any public comment? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion passed. All right, that was easy. So the certified agreement, there's a few language changes there highlighted in yellow. 8.2, process of evaluation. A non-tenured teacher's first formal evaluation shall take place prior to October 31st, with follow-up meeting taking place within 1 week. The second formal evaluation shall take place no later than the end of the third quarter. So we just put some specific dates, timeframes that those evaluations for non-tenured teachers need to occur in. The next language change would be under Article 13, miscellaneous participation in the handbook revisions. This was an addition to the collective bargaining agreement. The association would be present at the table when discussing updates and revisions to the district handbooks. With this presence, they would have a voice in the discussion portion of any proposed changes, be able to ask questions and voice preferences. This was, they just asked to be included in handbook revisions that are later brought before the board for final adoption. Just basically giving them a confirmed seat at the table to allow them to be a part of those discussions. All right, the big item for this was the STARS Act and trying to meet the requirements of that STARS Act and teacher-based pay. Because of the STARS Act and the additional money from quality educator payment, it gave us extra dollars this year that we haven't seen in years past. It also put some mandates in front of us on how we structure the salary matrix. Now, we had an opportunity where we could have left our current matrix in there and just started crossing out all of those lines that did not meet that minimum teacher salary pay. But I took the opportunity to take on a bigger task. For as long as I've been on the negotiating committee, the discussion is, why is our matrix so complicated? Why does our matrix not make sense? The values, the multipliers between the steps changes. And as far as I can know, it was just things that were negotiated in little bits and pieces over time. So we had an opportunity. Previously, it would have been difficult to change a matrix without making somebody go backwards when you don't have any additional funds to make sure that everybody got to move forward. But by bumping our matrix and giving us a true matrix that starts at the minimum base salary, we had to put some control on the growth of how fast the matrix expands. So that was the opportunity to clean up and to make all of the steps the same value, make the lane changes the same value, and reduce the amount that goes between each step to keep the upper end of the matrix from getting out of hand to a point where the district could not afford what was being done at the lower end. The point of the STARS Act and even the point of all negotiations for the last several years is You know, starting teacher pay is just too low. Once you've been here for 15, 16 years, you know, it's not a bad salary. I'm not saying they don't deserve more money, but it's not a bad salary. But starting teacher salary, a teacher coming out of college with college debt cannot make it on a $30,000 starting salary. So there was an enormous amount of work that went into trying to make a matrix that met compliance requirements and met, you know, the objectives of both the district's budget and teacher salaries. And honestly, I was a little shocked that we got it done in as little time as we truly did. And I appreciate, you know, those that were on that committee because they had to listen to me over and over again, try to explain why I did what I did. And the big thing, especially for teachers, is you'll see the old matrix said years of teaching or years of service. And so we had to revamp because of moving from that matrix to the new matrix. We had to go in and assign people steps. So it is not a reflection of years of service now. It is just a step. And in years to come, it will proceed as steps, just as it did before. It's just not years of service. So when we did it, I did it. We went and we looked at the dollars of where they were at, what the raise needed to be, where they would have moved on the old matrix. And so we had to assign new steps to make sure that everybody received the minimum of a 3% raise. Obviously, those on the bottom that are moving up into that STARS Act minimum base pay are getting quite a bit more. But that's the objective of the STARS Act, is to bump teacher pay. Again, there's not enough time to totally explain how and why and what, but that I find it very successful that we managed to do this, and they agreed and ratified the agreement last night or this morning too. And I do appreciate all of those on the team that did that, because I know they had their work cut out for taking it to the teachers that weren't there through the process. And they had a relatively short amount of time to try to explain why we did what we did. And Laura's not here, right? Jeremy's here, Angie's here. I don't know if either of you want to add. Lisa, sorry. There you are. If any of you that were on that, you know, want to add to that jumbled up mess that I just put out.
No, we certainly appreciate it. Like, yeah, there was like really a lot of numbers, but we got it figured out. You know, we knew that this matrix, like Jason was saying, that to change the matrix to make it more beneficial for teachers traveling from one thing to the next, and that's really like it was going to take money. We just didn't have a chance to do it in the past, and this year we did, and so we made it more equitable across the board. And on top of that, get that kind of the 3% kind of bump right there. And you're right, like going forward, it is going to be hard for us teachers. We've had these discussions of trying to wrap our head around the difference, the change, the ideological change of years and steps. But myself, Angie, Lisa, Laura, we're all more than welcome to walk you through it. But, yeah, I mean, we're definitely behind it. We appreciate it. And like you said, kind of, nothing was, it was a rush schedule, but I mean, it all makes sense, right? We're not doing this just for the sake of doing it to kind of push it through. That's not it at all. We believe in it. It's a good change, a warranted change. So yeah, we'll wait for next year.
I want to add on that for those teachers that weren't able to attend the meeting, we are still maintaining that seniority list with years of experience. Brad will post that just like we always have. And it really doesn't come into play until you retire. But he will maintain that. It will not be reflected on his contracts. It will be the steps.
I'd like to add something, and thank God we have Jeremy and Lisa and Laura, because
numbers are not my thing. But it is extremely difficult to design and go from one contract to another with people's salaries. And Jason, I know he put a ton of work in. I know it probably doesn't make a lot of sense at first, but we're able to share the information with you. So if anybody didn't see what they're going to make, then you can contact one of us and we can give you those numbers.
Is there a motion on that collective bargaining? One motion to this one is only 1 year. This one. 25. Sometimes the most I've seen is 2 years. The certain classifiers, excuse me, at one point there was higher. We are. Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve the certified collective bargaining agreement as presented. Any discussion?
Can I just make one quick comment? I just wanted to say, I'm not actively involved at all in the negotiations. I did observe them, and I obviously paid more attention to them this year than the year before, but just very impressed with the process and the amount of work that both sides put in, regardless of how the whole thing would have turned out or whether it's a good deal, bad deal, whatever, the work that both sides put in and crunching numbers and the professionalism with which they went about it was very impressive. And I thank you because I think that sets a very good tone for the district.
I'm going to add to that. Good job, Jason. Good job to the teachers union because it actually looks like a teacher's contract now.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I like most of the additions. The financial pieces make sense. I'm fully in support of the matrix. I do have some, concerns with extracurricular schedule as far as that goes.
So that one we kept, we didn't feel we had enough dollars to bump the extracurricular to the STARS Act base pay. And it's not required because of the STARS Act. So the extracurricular matrix remains its own separate entity. It still received a 3% raise to those values.
Yeah, I was actually on the other side of that actually too. But by approving the CBA, we're also approving the extracurricular schedule, right?
Yeah.
And we don't have a 25-26 schedule to approve. This is the 24-25.
It is
Or is
correct.
it 25-26?
It is 25.
Okay.
It is, somebody didn't get the date change.
No, that's fine. And then the other piece that I would like information on or made aware of is we have the performance eval process laid out in 8.2, and it assigns a timeline for non-tenured teachers, which I really think is super helpful. I just would like to see something, again, it's not a deal breaker, but potentially for tenured teachers as far as the timeline. And then also the other piece of it being the extracurricular evaluation. It's not mentioned at all.
Make a note, you're on the negotiations committee. That can be item number 1.
Well, and so then to that point, there was hard to get this data, but anyway, yeah, I'm not. Like I said, I'm not going to take a hard position against it. No, I talked about filling those extracurricular positions and offering to volunteer staff first. And I think it's good to offer that to staff, but I don't know that that's the right order. but that's, again, for future negotiations. I would like to see a lot of those, extracurriculars be opened up to the public if we have a qualified individual that wants to coach or wants to be an extracurricular leader, that's given the same preferential treatment as somebody who's employed.
Any further discussion? Yeah, I concur. Any public comment? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion passed. Personnel resignations.
Okay, so we have several resignations that have been submitted. High school secretary, Wanda Moldenauer, congratulations to her. She's retiring after an absolutely incredible run in the high school, and it'll be a very strange feeling to walk through there without Wanda. Classified staff, Ashlyn Spencer Jones, Hallie Rhoda, Travis Reagan. Certified, Carly Gunderson from her SDS position. Coaching, Tyler Patrick. Assistant high school tennis, Sienna Everett, junior high volleyball, and then Simone Dominguez has been asked to be taken off the sub list. So those are our resignations. There was one additional one that was not on this list that I gave you, which was Devin Zito from assistant boys basketball.
I move to approve resignations as presented to add Devin Zito.
Correct. Yes.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the resignations as presented. Is there any discussion?
I just want to say that, I'm going to get emotional. We're going to miss Wanda. She's incredible. She's the hub of our high school. She's just, we really are going to miss her. I'm going to see her every day. She, knows so much, like so many of our other folks that are retiring, that she takes a lot of institutional knowledge with her, and we are really going to miss Wanda in the high school office. I want to thank her for everything she's done for all of us, and I have really enjoyed my life with her very much.
Discussion? Any public comment? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion passed.
I guess I should have said Carly too. We've enjoyed having her for 3 years too, the FCS person. She's done an incredible job. The kids love her, and I wish her the best of everything moving forward.
And for those retirees, there will be some honoring of them. If anybody like to take part, we'll make sure you're aware of, because we have several retirees this year. People that have been a huge part of what we do.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, employment for 24-25.
Okay, so for this summer with the 21st Century Program, to work summer programs, we have Denise Baucom, Danielle Douglas, Sherry Toney, Sheila Rivera, Carson Sangray, Brady Watkins, Andrea Tullis, Kelsey Briley, Joe Horn, and Holden Sampson. Do you want to do the summer food program in the same, or should that be one item probably?
We should probably split them.
Move to approve those listed for the 21st Century Program.
A second.
Been moved and seconded to approve those listed for the 21st Century Summer Program. Any discussion? Any public comment? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passed.
For the summer food program, we have Danielle Douglas, Angela Flores, and Vicki Thomason, who will be prepare and serve at the park.
Move to approve the summer food service employees.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the summer food program employees as presented. Any discussion?
Just a huge thank you to them and feel like good need in the summertime.
Discussion? Any public comment? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. Employment for 25-26, high school secretary, administrative assistant.
Okay, so for high school secretary, administrative assistant, we have interviewed and offered the position to Donna Cutshaw. And what this position is a combination of two positions. You know, as we know, there are financial constraints in the district. And I guess that is part of where some administrative costs are cut. Donna is currently an administrative assistant primarily to the superintendent and acts as kind of assistant or backup clerk. So by moving her over to the high school secretary, there's some duties that will shift a little bit. There'll be a little bit of shift to the elementary office just with some help in ordering things. We're going to try to minimize that, the burden put on them as much as we can. And then basically that administrative assistant in the superintendent's office is gone. There will still be some, we will still use Donna for some help with that position, but that position is the merging of two positions. So there is a cost savings there. So I would recommend approval of Donna Cutshaw as high school secretary pending negotiations with her.
I'll move to approve Donna Cutshaw as high school secretary, admin assistant pending negotiation.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve Donna Cutshaw as high school secretary and assistant pending negotiation. Is there any discussion? Discussion?
She'll be able to still help with backup clerk as
Yeah, and she has that training and in an emergency, yes, could help get us through. We're not gonna have any. That's part, that was in the job description.
Never sick, never going vacation.
Only in the winter. And we look for her to still continue with HR duties that she's been doing. She's done a great job. with
Yes,
that.
help us
She'll
with that.
be a wonderful front person for the office, and I know there'll be a steep learning curve, but I know Wanda's more than volunteer and willing to help train whoever comes in too, so that'll be good.
Yeah, appreciate, Donna, all the roles you've filled here in the last several months. You've kind of been bounced around and you know,
She's a Swiss Army.
we
knife.
appreciate all
I think Donna's a Swiss Army knife. She knows what I was.
I can only imagine you're looking forward to being in one spot. Any further discussion? Any public comment? All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, motion passed. Elementary educator.
So we have interviewed and offered positions to Sandra Luther and Sarah Tiffany as teachers as elementary educators for 2025, 2026.
Move to approve Sandra Luger and Sarah Tiffany as elementary educator.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Sandra Luther and Sarah Tiffany as elementary educators for the 25-26 school year. Is there any discussion? Discussion? Any public comment? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passed. Principal.
So the next item is on here due to a clerical error that should have been, both of those people are certified staff that should have been on the list last month when we approved certified staff. Sherry as a tenured certified staff, Steve Cook as a non-tenured certified staff. So I would move to approve Sherry Heverin as high school principal and Steve Cook as K-5 principal for 25-26. And again, that's pending negotiations, which are done by the negotiations committee.
What's the process? I'm under the understanding we can take a look at evaluations if we want to. Is that correct?
Typically, no, you can check to see that the evaluation was done, which it was. But the evaluation should be between the employer and employee.
So I was in touch with NTSB here yesterday, and they're telling me that if the board moves, we can see those. I mean, Steve's new. We want to see how he's doing. Brad, you're new. We want to see how you're evaluating him.
So he was evaluated by Susie before she left, and then I also performed another evaluation on him. But
I'll move to approve Sherry Hebron as high school principal and Steve Cook as K-5 principal for the 2025-2026 pending negotiations.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Sherry Hebron as high school principal and Steve Cook as K-5 principal for 2025-2026 pending negotiations. Is there any discussion? I haven't forgot about you. We will do it here shortly. We'll bring Mr. Cool and get him educated right from the get-go.
What I said about that was a good job.
Yeah, we just were pretty focused on those other two groups here for a little bit. But we will get right on that. So, any further discussion? Any public comment?
Yeah, we see they negotiate down $45,000.
Any further public comment? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion passed. Okay, item head girls basketball, David Lawson, motion was previously tabled. I need a motion to take from the table, the motion was on the floor. I will second that. It's been moved and seconded to take from the table, motion to approve David Lawson as head high school girls basketball coach for the 2025-2026. So that motion is now back on the floor. Is there any discussion? Discussion? Is there any public comment?
I do, some public comment. John Odell, AD. I've taught for 28 years. I've coached for 28 years. And it seems right now that the professionals that are doing the job, that understand the job totally, are being second guessed all over the place. And, I bet no one in this room knows what year the wrestling program started.
1975.
4. I am the third head coach in that program. I'm the third head coach in that program. Excuse me, I'm the fourth head coach in that program.
I was on the first team, so then.
Eli owns a fifth. And currently we have 1, 4, and 5 as part of the program. We started tennis in 1994. I'm the second head coach. I had the third head coach lined up, but he's gone now. But when you leave, and wrestling and tennis, we have been consistent and strong for the last 25 years. We're not, when we do win state trophies, we win state trophies. We win divisional championships, we win them. But even the years we're not good, we have good kids and good kids that wrestle well, do things right. But it's because I've been allowed to have a program for 25 years. And I'm mentoring the next level all the time. I mean, and that's, I'm telling you, if you want a program, if you want a model of a program, it's mentorship. And I've done that. here. And and when I move in the AD position, I try to do that as well. But I can't do that if we're constantly moving people out of a position. And I mentor people. I work with people on a daily basis. And there's people that second guess. There's people that second guess me all the time, and I'm fine with that. But I can't do my job effectively if, I mean, I try. I try hard. And it feels like when we're second guessing all the time what a professional does, what a professional knows. And I've taught 28 years. I've coached 28 years. I am a professional. I'm an expert coach. By far, the most qualified in this room. There's no doubt about that. And I hope that when we say we're working, we're trying to get better, and there's no line out the door to be a coach. There's no line out there. And when I came here in 2000, there was a line. There's not a line now. There's very few applicants for any job here. And I heard what you said about you need high school experience. You need a little gray in your hair. I heard that. And believe me, the next person I hire will have high school experience. And we offered a high school experience coach. They couldn't come here. But I believe in what we're doing here. I've been 25 years, invested my life, my career in this school. And that's all I can say about that. I mean, I've worked here a long time and I believe in what we do. And if every program got the same treatment, we didn't have to throw a coach against the coals every 2-3 years, you would see the fruition in every program here. That's my belief. We've allowed certain programs to have their space, and then we micromanage other programs. That's what I believe. And I believe if I got 25 years in basketball, I know nothing about basketball. I would have a culture, I would have a program that prospered. I know nothing about tennis. I've never played tennis in my life. But because they needed me, I did it. I studied, I worked, and they gave me a chance. And we're one of the best teams in the state, year in and year out. And so I believe in hard work and giving a person a chance.
Thank you. Do you have a public comment?
Yes, I want to say something. There isn't a person in this room right now that isn't here for the kids. I can say that. I think it's so vitally important to remember that we're here. Programs are built, academics are solidified, they're worked on. Everything is pushed. Let's not lose sight of why we're here. And there isn't a single person in this room right now that isn't here that does not care about kids. And I think we need to put that here. Everything else is down here. That needs to stay here. That's my process.
I decided about exactly a month ago that I would have my voice heard after my vote was censored on this topic. And so I'd like to stand here and speak up in support of these coaches as not as being full-time coaches for my kids, but seeing where they've come in outside of the normal practices to work with my daughter and being very supportive of her. And I greatly appreciate that. I think there's a bigger picture here, as John has alluded to, that we keep coming after coaches every year. And I think that brings up a good point that we look back at the history of this, at least over the last couple of years as I've been here. This particular topic has come across in many ways as being close to violating, if not having violated rights. And this has come to the expense of many thousands of dollars to the school district. So at what point is this anymore about a coaching contract? I think it goes beyond that. And I personally have been asked to make sure I support this, or else I would not have any support in that. That spoke a lot to me on this, and I think that's concerning. It was done in front of us, in front of one of my children. So now that has taken a student and potentially given them a different aspect or image of this person, of these coaches. I hope not. But I think when this vote comes down to it tonight, I truly believe we're no longer voting for coaches. I think this is a message from the board that will clearly show where the support is for our staff, where the support is for our students, where the support is for all of the admin who have come in to recommend these two coaches. And I think it'll show where the morals and ethics of this board stand. I would like you to take that in consideration when you're going to vote on this. I would have gladly and wish I would have been able to have the opportunity to vote last month. But I think as a private citizen, I was able to speak maybe a little bit more freely and give you guys my perspective of this and how I see this.
Any other public comment?
Phil Cobb, I don't know what has the administration recommended to the board as it pertains to the renewal of these contracts?
The recommendation was to rehire. And to renew.
Mr. Chair, can I speak? I have a statement here I'd like to read. My name is David Lawson. I'm the girls' head basketball coach, and I want to thank you for your time. Coaching our student athletes has been a great honor. I'm proud of what we've built together. And it's not just in terms of wins and losses, but the growth we have all experienced in the last 3 years. I believe the progression we have made have showed that we're on the right track in developing a positive program. Whatever the outcome, I remain positive and proud of what we built and grateful for the opportunity to make a difference in student athletes' lives. I ask that the decision that's made about my coaching contract today roots in fairness. I really think if you open up to the public, you're going to hear a very positive reflection of how my program is. And Mr. Chair, I have reference letters from other individual coaches, peers around our district that supports and highlights the progression that we've made in the last 3 years. Can I share that with you guys?
You can give them to the board and the board can read them. You know, we're not going to read them out loud and share it that way. But you're welcome to hand them out to them.
Perfect.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
David? First of all, I appreciate you coming. I really do. And I asked this question to your predecessor, you know, a few years ago when we were kind of involved in the same process. You know, coaching basketball, knowing fundamentals of basketball, you know, is one thing. The biggest challenge for you, for any coach, is building trust and building buy-in in your program. And I asked him the same question. You obviously are facing, you know, some people that don't agree. I would just like to ask you, can you share with us how you plan to build that trust, to build buy-in from not only your players, because your players obviously come and go, they change, you know, you lose a few seniors every year, you pick up a few freshmen. There has to be buy-in in the program. When somebody comes and they say, Coach Lawson is the coach, I want to play it, I'm willing to play for Coach Lawson. Why? What can you build in your players? And that goes beyond their players, because you gotta build confidence in their parents, and you gotta build confidence in the community. Can you help this board understand what you plan to do to build that buy-in
EU program?
You know, for me, it's to build a culture. I think it starts with relationships, and I feel like we do a good job. Myself and my staff do a great job developing these relationships with our student athletes. You know, I think there's a ton of opportunities that there's times that we miss, right? But I really think just being, and I want to make myself clear here, it takes time, you know, and I feel at times when you have kind of this undermining of whether it's coaching or a coaching philosophy and a person who's doing the job, I just feel like it doesn't really help me to continue building those relationships, if that makes any sense. I saw a decline in buy-in over the summertime. From last board meeting, there was individuals that was part of our team that I felt like just didn't buy in, and they didn't show up to get the work done for the next season. And I think, you know, this hurts, you know, for this second year in a row with my name dragged in the mud. And girls are talking, you know, just like parents are talking. And they're going to have to make a decision, right? But also, I feel like they should also do the work, you know, and not just hear one side of the story, but also just kind of do the homework, you know. There's been a lot of false allegations about me. It's been undermining my coaching experience, my knowledge of the game. And each day I'm fighting to regain that, you know, that gain that trust from the players and also the parents. But it's difficult when you have these labels put on you, and you're fighting this negativity, right? This black cloud that's been placed on your head, and it's been challenging, I would say, right? I hope I'm answering your question correctly.
No, I understand what you're facing.
Right.
What I'm asking is, you know, we spend a lot of time looking at trying to create goals and plans to fix that. I'm asking, do you, if you're given the opportunity to continue this, what can you tell us about the plan to make it better?
For me, you know, we lay out a really good progressive summer. The month of June, we practice twice a week, and then tournaments on the weekend. Our goal is to enter in 4 tournaments, up to 18 games, I believe. We also do fundraising, and I think the more time that I have the opportunity to be with the girls, that's where the developments are being created. Being created. You know, in the summertime, we focus on a lot of skill development. We focus on the X's and O's, I guess, the strategies of what we need to implement in the tournaments. And I have a really good staff that helps me with that in the month of June. July, we kind of scale down a little bit with games, but we still provide those opportunities in the summer for the players to get better. I'm a firm believer on what you put in is what you get out. You know, if we providing these opportunities for you, they're there to take advantage of them. And what you're witnessing, what you've seen is these opportunities not being taken by our players because of the undermining. And I truthfully believe that. It's if you get a student or a player excuse to bail and not put the work in, they're going to take it. I feel like I need support by parents to keep kids accountable, with work that needs to be done in the off season. And I felt like last year, because of the undermining of the board, it didn't happen. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you.
Yes.
Question for the staff. So what else are you doing? There's other traveling teams, stuff like that out there. How much are you working with them? I mean, the only reason I say it is because you just said something about how much work someone puts in. You know that against my daughter when she was working.
Can I address that?
No, we're crossing the line. No, I'm not going there.
That's fine. Okay, that's fine. I'm sorry. But I wouldn't mind an answer.
No.
Are you talking about my involvement in other programs besides the high school program? Yeah. So, I've dedicated my life to teaching and coaching. And I spent a great deal on helping other up-and-coming coaches as well, and implementing different strategies or skills into their program, right? Mr. Reagan, there's been times where I helped him develop his program, whether it was travel ball, or with the middle school program. Currently, we have a 3-on-3 basketball league. Okay, that basketball league it's accommodating to, I guess, Elkhorn, right? So during the Elkhorn season, we do a 3-on-3 basketball league. I think the last year we played into 5 tournaments. A lot of those, tournaments like in the Belgrade area. We partnered up with Go Hoops. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that's another AAU team or a training program. We ran that league through the Washington Gym. They're very supportive. I would say, even with the current middle school staff now, myself and Coach Reed, Coach Johnson has done a really good job going to lower levels to our grassroots programs and helping them with the basic fundamentals. Also structuring their team that accommodates our high school team, if that makes any sense.
Right. So the reason I bring that up is that it is a great opportunity to involve other means than just being limited by MHSA rules to give those girls, more opportunities to keep playing, and for you to be involved in that.
Are you talking about like the high school level, or are you talking about
Well, yeah, just the traveling teams and all that.
Yeah, I think we have conflicts when it comes to AAU high school basketball. There's not a lot of opportunities for high school basketball players in Montana. A lot of the tournaments are 3rd through 8th grade, and I feel the reason why is because of conflict of other sports, right? There is some AAU teams out there like the Rebels and Southwest Blazers, and also the Go Hoops. But those teams are finding games outside the state. They're flying to Arizona, they're going to Vegas, they're going to Washington, and it's really expensive to get on these type of travel teams. And I really think if we just keep advocating to take our student athletes to join these AAU teams, it takes away from our clubs here, So I try not to. I liked the fact that our kids are 3 sports athletes.
It's just not an opportunity to have that influence and prop you up as
Yeah, I think I really use that position to reach the younger levels. I've done it for quite some time now. Like I said, I mentioned coaching with Chase Reagan, and also running practices, and also utilizing Coach Reed to kind of help as well. So I feel like we do a really good job reaching those grassroots programs. You know, for me, I feel like another thing that will help the high school program is if our grassroots programs are running similar concept or learning similar concepts that we're doing in the high school, right? And also focus more on fundamentals than the X's and the O's part of it, you know? And it'd be nice if we kind of had that umbrella where everyone kind of creates a league like they have in Pickup USA, but we just don't have that. We don't have the facilities for it either, you know? So a lot of our kids now are traveling to Montana City for basketball. Is that it?
David, just thank you for coming and thank you for putting yourself out there last year and this year. I don't like the fact that we do spend so much effort on this topic. I'm on the board 2 years. There's clearly a community issue with basketball, and it has been for a long time. And I know the community is in a lot of hurt. I know staff is in a lot of hurt. But I just want to thank you for commenting on yourself out there.
Can I make a comment? I just want to thank you for acknowledging that the last board meeting that you characterized my character falsely, and I appreciate that last meeting that you corrected that, and I respect you for that. Thank you.
Any further public comment?
Lisa Campbell. I have 2 daughters that play, and they are happy with the basketball staff. Do I think David is the best coach? Probably not, but he's got, and I mean that with love, David. But he's got 2 other coaches that are very qualified, and they are helping him. So if we can give him more years to build it up. And don't forget, we're dealing with teenage girls. I have 2 of them in my home. My oldest one comes home, and you all have seen her play. She comes home disgusted from practices because of other girls messing around. They won't listen. They won't do this. They won't do that. They won't listen to the coaches. They keep telling them. It disgusts her because you know her. You've seen how she plays. You know. I say we give him a chance. Let him build it. Let him build it. He's got great coaches there beside him helping him.
I'm Jamie Lawson, and I have a love-hate relationship with basketball. And I'm David's wife, so I'm going to be probably the hardest on him. I think like your question, because I see the other side of coaching. And yeah, I almost wish that, he didn't put the time in that he does, because it takes away from myself and my family and our kids. And like I said, last board meeting, we come home from the game, and what do we put on the TV? The game. It is a dedication, and it's a dedication for the whole family. But I also see that the start of every season, he's positive, he's motivated, he's pushing out communications to the parents, he's offering umpteen games in the summer, open gyms anytime. If a player calls, that happens. If he can make either himself go down and open the gym, or an assistant coach go down and open the gym, that happens. And that's the love-hate part of me being his wife. I just, even with all of this going on, sitting at home and just feeling the anxiety of these upcoming meetings and how that's affected him, how it's affected me, and it all trickles down. We talk about, principals and how that trickles down. Yeah, if you're not supporting your staff, then yeah, your students feel that. So I'm, feeling all that anxiety, and David made the comment of, man, this is just postpone my season another month. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like opening the gym for those girls. and that was his thought process of, tabling this decision for another month. Well, there's a month out of the gym. There's a month that we're not open in the gym for the girls that he would have been. So, that part of it, I hate, but that's kind of his mindset. Like, let's get in there and play basketball and help kids improve. Like Mr. Cook said, every one of us is here for the students. If you're trying to say that he's not, you are so far off base. And it's unfortunate to hear those things said in meetings like this.
Any other public comment?
I'm Courtney Johnson. I've been coaching junior high basketball for 4 years. 1 year was under the previous head coach. 3 years have been under Lawson. I can tell you from experience that I've seen improvement in the program because I know the second year I coached, I wasn't even sure I was going to have a team because we weren't sure who was going to come play because there's been so much turnover in junior high coaches and high school coaches, so nobody knows anyone. And you're here because you want to help the kids. I'm not a teacher. I have a job that's flexible enough that allowed me to come in. Part of the reason I applied was because they kept putting out, hey, we want coaches, we want coaches. I remember going to a small school and girls sports getting cut because we couldn't find coaches. And we couldn't find people who wanted to spend the time that Coach Lawson and Coach Reed really want to put in. I had the opportunity this last year to volunteer and help with high school. Boy, did I not know what goes into being a high school coach. The amount of basketball I think my family watched because I was trying to help with a lot more than I ever thought I would watch. And I know that Coach Lawson and Coach Reed put in 2 or 3 times what I put in. But I now, because I'm helping with the younger kids too, I know 6th graders that are coming into our program. I know 5th graders that are talking about playing basketball. And it's kind of nice to see because now instead of being like, oh, is there going to be a junior high team this year? You're like, oh, we've got these kids. They're doing the 3-on-3 tournaments. I see these kids in Montana City because that's the opportunity they have. We have open gyms for the middle school that we did last year that I hope we do again this year. So we got to know some younger kids and they got to know us before the pressure of the season. And it's just amazing to see that growth because they come in, they know you, they're more comfortable with you. If we continue to have this turnover, you don't know what you're getting, and it's hard because it's like, okay, I trusted this person. Now somebody decided that they shouldn't have been in that position, so now I have to learn to trust somebody all over again. And as a female athlete, that's a difficult position to put them in. To just, I don't know if you're going to be the coach next year, so where does that leave me as an athlete? I go all in for you. I work really hard. We have a great season. You're let go. Well, where did that get my work? What does that say about my work? What does that say about my effort as an athlete if we're putting in the time and effort into one program for just to disappear the next year? So I would hope you would see the benefit, because I know I've seen the benefit as a junior high coach with the increased staff or kids coming up and knowing who we are and what they're getting into and being excited to be part of the team. So that's just something to consider.
Any further public?
Wow, I just got really nervous. I just wanted to say that I understand the importance of the school board. I don't know the ins and outs of what you guys do, respect what you guys do. But I think that just putting the faith back in, like John Odell is the athletic director and I don't know who makes these decisions, sorry, but the superintendents and principals, I don't know why that's not just solely their decision. I think that gets a little micromanaging, but I just highly respect John and Brad and Sherry and all of them. And I think that we just need to put our faith back in the people that work with them every day. And I think John could make the best decision out of anybody.
I have a snapshot of David was when my kids were going through. And what I remember is when my youngest was in 8th grade, I looked at the coaches and I said, could you just stop time? It was so encompassing, it was so welcoming, it was such a positive, fantastic experience. Not only that, but he also was bringing those kids up and he was coaching kids at other events.
I remember we went to Butte and you took the time to go take a kind of hodgepodge bunch of kids over there and start to teach them about basketball. What I saw was a guy who was totally convinced to build a program. And I love to see that you were becoming the head coach. I was excited to see it. And you even called me one time because you smelled out the fact that mine was not going to be playing basketball again. So you went the extra mile even though you were not on that coaching staff. I really appreciate that, and I appreciate what you did for my kid. And by the way, I mentioned to him that this might be coming up, and he said, "You got to go, Mom. You need to go." And I said, "Do you want me to speak?" He said, "No, don't speak." Anyway, you were a formidable part of my kid's future, so thank you.
That's not me. Thanks. When we heard tonight, when board member Rayfield was sworn in, the word fidelity was right at the end of it. Fidelity meaning faithful performance of duties. I would think that David matches that fidelity of faithful performance of his duties as a basketball coach and to those ladies that he coaches. Fidelity to this administration in their knowledge to put forth the recommendation to rehire. I would challenge the board to display the fidelity that you all had sworn an oath to. Put aside feelings. We had even tonight a visual, personal feeling come out. That's not fidelity. Fidelity is duty to the board and those that you are listening and taking recommendations to. So I challenge the board to deep down, reach, put aside those obvious personal feelings and do your duty as fidelity demands.
Any further public comment? Okay. Do a roll call vote for minutes. Nisha. No. Line 4.
Before I want to say one thing, I acknowledge Paul. And I know the letter and a lot of this is pointing towards me. And it sucks. It really does. David, there was a time when we were friends. And, when I came out of this board, I told myself I wasn't going to let what happened between us affect my decision at any time. And that first year I was really cheerleader in the stands. That's the truth. The problem is I've acknowledged what everyone has said here today. When you talk about fidelity and personal feelings, I acknowledge those were there. Today I represent 7 different families that have come to me with situations where their girls did not have a good experience. And that's going to leave it at that. And so my vote is no, because of those girls. So that's it.
Motion fails, 3 against, 2 for. Thank you, everyone, for your time and your input. So we will skip the assistant girls basketball coach at this time and go to the 21st century program coordinator.
The 21st century program coordinator is Ruby Irick. She has served throughout this year, and we would recommend hiring Ruby Irick to continue in that position in the 25-26 school. fiscal year, because that actually starts, and carries through the summer. It starts July 1st.
I'll move to approve Ruby Irish for 21st century for 25-26 fiscal year.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Ruby Eric as 21st Century Program Coordinator for the 25-26 year. Is there any discussion? Discussion? Any public comment? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. 21st Century Program Director.
So the director of that program is Katie Erb. She served in that capacity this year and would recommend approving Katie Erb as the 21st Century Program Director for the next fiscal year.
I'll move to approve.
I can move to approve Katie Erb as 21st century program director for fiscal year 2020.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Katie Erb as 21st Century Program Director for 25-26. Is there any discussion? Discussion? Is there any public comment? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. That is the conclusion of our meeting. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for hanging in there.